Hello class, my name is Brooke Wren, and my lesson is going to be on genetics. Specifically, we will be discussing inheritance patterns, traits, the father of genetics, and of course, Punnett squares. So first, I wanted to talk about the different things that are involved with genetics, which are our chromosomes, our genome. Here's an example, a better example of a genome. This is what it looks like under a microscope. Our DNA, and our cells. So first, chromosomes are DNA that house our genetic material. They say what we are, they determine everything about us. All of the chromosomes together make up our genome, as you can see here. Chromosomes tell us what genes we have, and we have about 21,000 genes, which is a lot, that make up what we are and tell us who we are. Our DNA is next, and it is the molecule that houses our genetic code. Our DNA is stored within our cells, and more specifically, it's inside our cell nucleus. Our cells do a lot for us and keep us alive, and we would not exist without our cells. So next, I want to talk about the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel. In the 1860s, Mendel became a monk in Austria. He took care of the monastery pea plants, and through crossbreeding the different colored pea plants, he noticed that there are dominant and recessive traits. Now, crossbreeding, what I mean by that is he would take the pollen from one colored pea plant, put it in a different colored pea plant, and see what would result from that. Now, here are different examples of the different colored peas that exist. There's a yellow one, there's a curved one. These are all different traits. Here's a green one, and here's a purple looking one. Very cool. So through years, and I mean years of observation, he noticed that there were different traits that were dominant and recessive. Now, when you hear the word dominant, you probably think of the word strong or associate the word with strong. And that is true. Dominance is something that occurs all the time. It's, for example, brown eyes is a dominant trait. Blue eyes is a recessive trait. Recessive means that it's weak, that it is not that common. Red hair is also another recessive trait. So, these experiments that he conducted with the pea plants to see dominant and recessive traits established the rules of heredity. Mendel observed the pea plant's height, color, seed shape, seed color, the color of the flower, and even the location of the flower to determine what was dominant and what was recessive. And through years of crossbreeding, he noticed that, surprisingly, the green peas were recessive and the yellow were dominant. Which is very interesting, I think, because we always see green pea plants and not that much yellow. So it's very interesting that he found out that yellow was a dominant trait. So here are more of Mendel's experiments that showed that there are dominant and recessive characteristics. One example are the flower color. So we have purple flowers and white flowers. So when he mixed different colored flowers, all of the plants had purple flowers. Rarely did they ever have white. So as you can see, look at this ratio, 3-to-1. That is very dominant. So next, he observed the height. So he would mix different sized pea plants. So as you can see, there's a dwarf one, and then there's a tall one, and they would produce tall pea plants. So here we are going to go into Punnett squares, but I saw this and I thought this would be a very good example on how to observe and determine dominant and recessive traits through Punnett squares, since we're learning about the pea plants. So let's go over what this all means, what this is a Punnett square, which I'll be getting more into in the next slides. But I wanted to talk about the different letters. So as you can see, this is capital, so this is a dominant trait. Capital letters are associated with dominant. Lowercase is associated with recessive. So whenever you read Punnett squares, or whenever you do your own, you're going to look at this one first, and then look at this one, and write them down right here. And through this, I will go more into the Punnett squares right now, but through using a Punnett square, you could determine the dominant traits. So as you can see, the ratio would be 3:1 with the dominant traits. So you can see this one's dominant, this one is dominant, this one is dominant, and then this one is recessive. As you can see, it is the 2 lowercase letters. That is a recessive trait, which is the dwarf one. So next we're going to go into Punnett squares and how to read them and how to make your own. So Punnett squares are used to predict inheritance patterns of traits through crossbreeding, and they could be used to determine one or more trait, but we are going to be using the one trait since the multiple is used for the higher education. So here's a great example on how to write out a Punnett square and how to determine the different traits, the recessive and the dominant. So this is the female right here. So the female has a capital B and a lowercase b. The male right here has a capital B and a lowercase b. So whenever you look and write a Punnett square, you are going to look at this one first. You always start right here. So this is a capital B, so we're going to write the capital B down right there. So next we're going to look at this one, because whenever we crossbreed with male and female, we need to determine the traits, and this one is the capital B, so we write capital B right there. Here is your offspring. This one is the most dominant one. Here it is. Next we're going to look back at this one, so here's capital B, you write capital B right there. You look up here, lowercase b, lowercase b. Now this is where it gets really hard for students whenever they're first learning about Punnett squares. So you see this lowercase b, a lot of students will just write lowercase b and look up here, see, okay, capital B, and write the capital B. That is not the case, students. So whenever there is a capital B, you always put it first. You always put the capital first. Always put the capital first. And then you can write lowercase b. Always write it like this. Do not put the lowercase b first. You always put the capital B, then the lowercase b. And then finally, lowercase b and the lowercase b. This is your recessive. These are your dominant right here. This is your dominant. So next, I'm going to teach you how to draw a Punnett square, which is fairly easy. I know you guys can do it. So as you see, you draw your line right there, draw another line, and another line, and then you have your traits, and then you write them out, BB, capital B, lowercase b, and lowercase b and lowercase b. So this is how you write it out. You do not need this extra box. That's why I put a big X right there. You just need your lines to make your boxes, because you need one box, another box, another box, and another box to separate your different traits, so you can combine them. As you can see, combine, combine, and combine. So next, I'm going to talk about the different traits for the Punnett squares, or the different genotypes of the Punnett squares, which is heterozygous, and the other one is homozygous. So when you break down the word hetero, you mean different. Different is what hetero means. So as you can see, capital T, lowercase t, lowercase t. So this is a heterozygous Punnett Square. So you got the capital T, lowercase t, capital T, lowercase t, capital T, lowercase t, capital T, lowercase t. Next is homozygous. So homo means same. So as you can see, these are all the same. Capital T, capital A, capital A, capital A, capital A, capital, 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 capital. And that is how you write your Punnett squares.